Escorts, secret text messages, disturbing allegations. The Sean P. Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial is well underway, roommates, and we are here. We are breaking it down. It is the end of week one. We have been boots on the ground since it all started on Monday. Again, we are wrapping up week one. And of course, our coverage, our tweeting, our wall-to-wall live coverage of what's happening on the ground would not be possible without my esteemed colleagues, Brianne, Deville, and Saran Tarawaley. They are joining us right now this evening. Ladies, come on in. How y'all feeling? Y'all look good after the week we had.
Thank you. Yeah, we tired. We tired, but we making it look good though.
Let me tell you something. You guys have been running. You guys had to buy sneakers.
Yeah.
Running and chasing after some of the people outside, some of the family members, Cassie's husband. It has been just a whirlwind week. So much to discuss, so much to break down. First of all, I just wanted to first give the layout of what's been happening so far. I mean, when you walk in that courtroom, right, there's the overflow room, and then there's the 26th floor where we had an opportunity to see. And when we got up there, where it's all happening, we saw Janice Combs, his mom, we saw the twins, we saw all of his sons as well. Talk to me about how the temperature is up there, y'all.
So, of course, on day one, I just wanted to learn the lay of the land. Where's everything happening? What room is Diddy in? What room are the lawyers going in? Like, how is everyone moving? What rooms are they going in and what doors are they coming out of? And then I discovered the 26th floor, and the 26th floor is where the courtroom that Diddy, Cassie, all of their attorneys are in, and that's where everything is happening. And once they take the little breaks, whether it's like a 10-minute break or when they break for lunch, everyone is like trying to get a little breather. So they come out in the hallways, and you really get to see how his sons are interacting with one another, and also how they're checking on one another. They're not speaking to anyone really, but of course, as journalists, we always try to grasp that moment, but also just to analyze how everyone's feeling, what it looks like, especially after hearing like the testimony or like the different statements from the witness stand. So
it was interesting too, because when you're up there, you know, you don't expect to be in the same bathroom stall with the twins. Or with, you know, Janice Combs. It is like really intimate. It's a very small hallway.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you noticed them doing before or maybe after those breaks?
I can speak to that. I think they were very, very close. You could tell that as a family, as Saran said, they really, really wanted to support each other. You could see Quincy holding the twins' hands. They were embracing, they were hugging, speaking. Like she said, they weren't speaking to us, but you could definitely see the intimate moments between them and just making sure that they were all okay, because there was some heavy stuff being revealed in that courtroom. And so I can only, you know, we can only speculate what they were feeling, but to actually see them having those embraces together was something interesting.
And they know we're in the room too, because when I tell you that the twins handler, I don't know who it was, maybe a family member or someone close to the twins. She saw us and she was like,
"That's Justin Carter." That's Justin Carter.
I was like, hi. Do you know how awkward that is? I'm like, hi, how are you? Like, what do you say in that moment? First of all, there's no cameras. We don't have our phones. There's nothing that we could do but just say, hello, how you doing? And maybe try to ask them questions. But you know, the twins were like, huh, what? And it was just a bizarre experience, right? Just to be up there and that close to them.
And it didn't help that I was wearing my TSR hat as well. So they definitely knew who we were. But it also made for a good moment with Brian Steele. I went up to him and told him, like, of course, we reported on your work with the Young Thug case. And a lot of the roommates have like found a likingness to him. So we would, of course, like to have his perspective and have a conversation with him. But of course, he said that he's under court order, but he did say that he loves TSR. So that was a great thing to hear from him. And he commended the work that we've been doing.
Yeah, he sure did. And it was so good to hear from him. He is definitely a star under it all. You know, he is definitely someone who's been out in the forefront. Let's get into this case. Mm-hmm. It has been explosive. We've learned a lot. I think the biggest thing we've learned, y'all, was the fact that a freak off is not necessarily what we all thought it was. Going into this, did y'all think that a freak off was like this big party where everybody has an orgy or they're having sex and, there are people filming and there's celebrities going in and out? I mean, did y'all feel the same way? I mean, we really kind of keyed in on what a freak off is, which is really intimate. It's Cassie, Diddy, and oftentimes an escort.
Yeah, I think that was generally the public perception, and a lot of the times in our comments as well, you could look across our socials, people were having these conversations about these Diddy freak-offs that, were perceived to have these rooms full of people and celebrities and notable names. And it was very, very interesting to learn that it was literally just 3 people most of the time. Diddy, Cassie, and whoever else, whatever escort they wanted in the room at that time, or whoever they were paying at that time, be that a stripper, dancer, variety of people in those rooms. But again, the numbers were very low. And I think, we did see a lot of comments on social media as well saying maybe this was why this stayed under wraps for so long.
Definitely. And I think that to me, it was shocking that there were only 3 people involved in these freak-offs. But another thing that I took notice of is when the male stripper took the stand, he said that Diddy was never actually physically involved with the sexual encounter that he would be having with Cassie. He would either be off to the corner, taking care of himself, to say the least. And then they would step into the room afterwards. But I feel like a lot of people actually thought that Diddy was taking part in whatever was happening with the freak-offs, like in the moment. So learning a little bit more of the details of what was going on between Cassie, the escort, and Diddy definitely gave like a lot more clarity for what the term freak-off is. And then I know I was speaking to a couple of my friends, just hearing the word voyeurism and voyeur, I never knew what that word was. So that was a new word that I now have in my vocabulary and understand the meaning of. But learning like what a voyeur is and what voyeurism is, and him watching his woman be in a sexual relationship with another man was very interesting to see.
Not Saran had to go through and like, okay, what is a voyeur?
I'm like, let me go and check on Google. What does that mean?
A voyeur. Oh, okay. They didn't teach that in journalism school.
No, they don't teach that in journalism.
No, they don't.
Man, so also, I mean, I think one of the biggest things, even when I was with you guys in the courtroom too, this past week, is seeing up close. We have never seen any of these escorts before. The public has never seen these escorts before. We, and of course, the people in the courtroom and in the overflow rooms are the first people to see who these escorts were. Describe these escorts to us. They showed us like 7 of them, Brianne.
Well, I'll start by saying that as the photos came across the screen, it was, I think, about 10 photos on that one day. We had outward reactions. We definitely did. We were looking at each other. We were making sounds. It was interesting, to say the least. And they had pretty similar demographics and pretty similar looks. And the photos of them seem to be maybe more recent than dating back to 2007 and 2008 when these freak-offs started happening. But a description of them, interesting to say the least. That's
listen. Somebody said, what did it look like? I said one of them looked like Exhibit, the rapper Exhibit.
You know what? You onto something.
I was like, they give just regular somebody that you would just walk past.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't, and this is no shade, but there wasn't anything spectacular to look at. It was just they were everyday men, it seemed. And I remember specifically a couple of them came up, and Justin and I were sitting next to each other, and we just had to give each other the look, because it was, you would think that someone at the superstar status of Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, one of the biggest music and entertainment moguls, would be in a room with people who were kind of this upper echelon status. And it just seemed otherwise once we saw the photos.
Absolutely. 100. I mean, Brianne, we looked at each other like rolling our eyes.
Perhaps that
as
was
far
a
as
part
the
of their
relation.
strategy. Like perhaps that was a part of their strategy, them finding these guys who, and the term that was used in the courtroom was guys who weren't conventionally attractive. And maybe because they wanted to keep this a secret ultimately. So finding those guys who aren't the model status or someone who can potentially get some type of fame, maybe that was a part of their strategy. Like, who knows?
Yeah. Something too, Saran and Brianne, is as I was there, they tried to paint the picture, at least prosecutors tried to paint the picture that Cassie did not want to do this. This was not something that she was interested in doing. She hated it. She said that Diddy forced her to do this while she was on her period at times. And of course, the urination in the mouth made headlines. So they painted that picture early, but during cross-examination, I was not in the courtroom. There was a different tone. There were text messages that were released, that were revealed, that kind of painted a different picture. And I kind of wrote down some of them. She said, "I love our freak-offs when we both want it. We can have fun. I don't want you thinking I don't want to." So there were text messages for years of her saying these things. So do you feel like there is, just a battle of the words in a sense? Like, in one case, she said that she hated it. And in another case, she said that she loved it.
I believe that once cross-examination started, right, you have to really understand that both sides, they always say there's your side, the other person's side, and then there's the truth in the middle. And I think each side is arguing their story, their truth, their side of this specific crime, if we must say that. And so once the cross-examination started, what they were trying to do was debunk the idea that everything with Diddy was all bad. And they used that term, all bad, which there was an objection to that in court because you can't make overgeneralization of that sort, but it was used in court that they wanted to debunk that everything was all bad. And so when these new text messages came out, most of them were from the very, very start of Cassie and Diddy's relationship, dating back to 2007. I remember one of the earliest text messages was about 2 weeks after they first met. And, when you first meet someone and you like them and you start to have strong feelings for them, you express those things. And so there were times where Cassie was saying, "I love you. I'm so in love with you. And you make my life better. And you make my life brighter. You make me a better woman." And vice versa. Diddy expressed those same things to her. And so to the point of the freak-offs, I think that those text messages just showed a different side. But the important thing there is that there was a combination of both sides happening over the course of this very complicated relationship that lasted for 11 years. It wasn't always all good and it wasn't always all bad. You have those ups and downs. And I think that's what the defense was trying to present. Ultimately, it was a little aggressive. I will not lie to you. It was a lot of aggressive, actually. But ultimately, they were trying to show that you guys are trying to show that it's all bad. Well, look at all these great things that were going on as well.
And I mean, Cassie even said it on the stand, like she loved Diddy. And a lot of the times when she was doing these things, it was because she loved him. She didn't want him to be upset at her. And she didn't want there to be an adverse reaction to her saying no. So, of course, cross-examination, they did what they were supposed to do in the defense of Diddy, like asking those hard questions and also bringing up the good times, trying to paint that picture of who Sean Combs is.
Did Cassie appear to be nervous, or was she more, because she's been composed up until this moment, but did she ever feel nervous or give any pushback or seem annoyed as they were cross-examining her?
Generally speaking, she seemed very well prepared. Like the prosecution prepared her extremely well. She seemed to have a very mild temper, very poised. There were some spats and points in time where they were maybe repeating questions or really harping on certain things or saying things that maybe she didn't understand. And I saw, especially yesterday, it's getting to the end of the week, and again, she's 8.5 months pregnant, and I saw some eye rolls. I saw a couple of just kind of batting her eyes, different things like that, just to show a little bit of frustration. But for the most part, she seemed very well prepared. There wasn't too much emotion either way for her. It was just like, I'm here, I'm going to tell my story, and I'm going to get off this stand.
And I think for me, I really observed her body language. So she would be fidgeting in her chair. She's grabbing water, constantly drinking it. She's holding on to her stomach. And of course, like we experienced her break down on the stand several times. So a lot of those emotional reactions that she would feel, or she was holding her back. Of course, she's pregnant. She's very pregnant. She's almost there, closer and closer to her due date. So just seeing that, I think, and the way that she would react to certain questions, like for example, when she was describing an instance where she alleges that Diddy kicked her in the back, and they even showed pictures of the bruising that she received on her back. As she was describing that moment, she held her back. So that's another thing, like, you know, only she knows what's going through her mind in that moment, but the body language also tells a story for itself.
Interesting. Definitely something to study too, as we continue with these, this testimony. Another thing I want to bring up too is these rape allegations. Cassie said it up front. She said, I was raped by Diddy. What was that like in the courtroom? And how did she describe that experience and the temperature in the room when she did describe it?
Yeah, so that was one of the emotional pieces that Saran kind of described, where there were times where she needed to take a break. I remember at one point she did like in the middle of a statement, stop and say, this is a lot. Under her breath, she said it into the mic. Lots of deep breaths. There were points in times where she like broke down into tears, extremely emotional, trying to describe to other people what that traumatic experience was like for her. But once they brought it into cross, the defense was really trying to poke holes in anything that they could about these rape allegations. The dates, she initially said in her lawsuit that it happened in September of 2018, and then early in her testimony she said it happened in August of 2018. So they were really going back and forth, the defense and the prosecution. It was definitely like a tug of war on that issue.
And then Kim Porter too. Her name was brought up a lot. It's been brought up a lot. So have other celebrities. Kim Porter too. Many listeners, many of us at home may not realize that, she has a key role into this, where they were ending their relationship and there was a lot of back and forth during that time period.
Yeah, that was something that that was a really thin line of questioning today, and as the cross ended, that really spoke to just the series of events that happened after the alleged rape occurred. Kim Porter, prior to her passing, had a long-standing relationship with Diddy. I mean, she had children with him. She was one of his partners for many years, alongside Cassie as well. There was a lot of overlap with all of their relationships. And then months after Cassie alleges that she was raped by Diddy, Kim Porter passes away, which was another source of contention in her complicated relationship with Diddy. She did attend his funeral. That was something that was a line of questioning today. Why did she attend his funeral? That was something that the defense wanted to know. If you experienced this very traumatic incident at this man's hands, why did you go to support him once Kim passed? As well as, she was technically in Cassie's eyes, a mistress, another woman that he was dealing with. And so that was something that Cassie had to speak to as well on the stand today.
Yeah, what did she say?
So they brought up another point of Kim Porter. When she passed, Diddy made this public statement. A lot of people probably remember he made a public statement saying that Kim Porter was my soulmate. Yeah. That was a direct quote. Kim Porter was my soulmate. And the events thereafter, Cassie did reveal on the stand today that she sent Diddy a text message, that those text messages were admitted into evidence today, and asked him what happened, like what happened to the 11 years that we were together, that you would say this other woman is your soulmate. And so there's a lot of complicated layers to the timeline, as well as the relationship and then passing of Kim Porter, that played a very intricate role in Cassie and Diddy's relationship.
Mm-hmm. I would describe it as almost like a roller coaster. It was very hot and it was very cold, and it's going to be very difficult, I think, for the jury to decipher, the intent behind it. When it was hot, when it was great, it was great. When it was cold, it was cold. Like, I feel like they must be going through it.
It would be extremely difficult for me just in taking the information as a member of the press. We're objective, and for me, I'm analyzing and I'm thinking and I'm putting the pieces together and not coming to any of my own conclusions. So I could only imagine for a member of the jury whose job it is to come to a conclusion, how difficult that actually is.
But I think an important part to remember is that this is the USA versus Sean Combs. This isn't Cassie Ventura versus Sean Combs. And I think that that's one of the important distinctions to make as everyone's like doing their own individual reporting, because of course, as a human being, hearing Cassie's emotional testimony, everyone has their own individual thoughts about how they feel about what she's saying. But when it comes to the facts of the case and what he's being charged with, it isn't domestic violence. This is the United States versus Sean Combs.
100%. I think, Saran, you hit it on the head, and it's very early too. People are making a lot of conclusions, and sex trafficking. Where's the sex trafficking? I'm like, everybody relax.
I think Cassie was the star witness. She was not the only witness. And so that's something that you have to make that distinction in this first week. She's no longer on the stand. We will not see her anymore. And so it's time to move forward, move on, hear out the other witnesses that will be on that stand, objectively listen to their stories, listen to the prosecution and the defense, and come to a conclusion that makes sense for the case.
Yeah. And to that point, Dawn took the stand today. That was a big one today. What happened today in court as Cassie's testimony wrapped up? And now we're on to Dawn, the next witness in this case. What happened? What'd she say?
Yeah, I'll start by saying just seeing her walk into the courtroom. First of all, she came a lot later than a witness would typically show up. And I believe that was intentional, that they wanted to kind of evade reporters. A lot of reporters were not outside anymore. A lot of people were in the courtroom. A lot of people were on lunch, and so it just by happenstance we got a glimpse of her walking in, and her body language seemed to be very reserved, very much more timid than what we typically see Dawn. She's a performer, and so when you see her on stage, she's larger than life, and that wasn't what she was giving today. It wasn't what she was portraying today. And on that stand, they got right to it. They didn't say much to Dawn outside of, what do you know? What did you see? She introduced herself. She introduced herself as a former member of Danity Kane. And immediately the prosecution went into this alleged 2009 assault that she witnessed between Cassie and Diddy, where they were at Diddy's Los Angeles home. And she says that she witnessed Diddy allegedly kick Cassie, drag Cassie, break glass on her, just all of these very... Because she
didn't have his eggs, or she didn't have his food.
He didn't have his food ready. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she did say that he, came into the room and said, is my food? Where's the food? And they kind of, just went from there. The prosecution did end at them asking Dawn about what happened after that assault. Dawn did say that, Diddy wanted to assure her, Cassie's fine, everything's okay, but I think it's best we don't talk about it. The very last thing that Dawn said in court today was that Diddy made a comment saying people might go missing. And then there was an objection to that statement, and immediately the judge said, we're going to adjourn for today and we'll pick back up on Monday.
What a nail biter. People go missing if what, she brought this to the press or called the police, or is that a question mark?
We don't know. We have no idea. I guess we'll find out on Monday.
So what about Aubrey? We've been hearing too that Aubrey might be taking the stand. And the funny thing is, people ask who's the next witness. We don't know.
We have no clue.
There's not a list of witnesses that they give out. It's like we're knowing in real time, just like everyone else. But it has been rumored that Aubrey might testify. So that's something that we're watching too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Aubrey's been like one of the more vocal members of Danity Kane. So we've heard some of her story, but not all of it. So I'm definitely interested to see what she's going to reveal on the stand, what she's been holding, because it does seem like whenever she does her interviews that she has a lot to say. a lot that she isn't really revealing, that a lot of people believed would come out like through a book, but now we actually get to see her on the stand and see how that cross-examination happens and everything that she reveals that she's gone through over the several years of knowing him.
Yeah, she has a lot to say. We also interviewed Dominique Renee. She was one of the contestants of Making the Band 3. She almost made the band. She literally was in the finale of that show. We interviewed her last week and she had a lot to say. It's in my most recent TSR Investigates that aired on Tuesday. So that's an interview you should check out. Everyone at home should check out as well. She detailed what it was like competing on that show. She didn't see Diddy a lot, but looking back, she was like, he did call this daddy's house. And that was kind of weird as a 20-year-old woman. And he often would say, give daddy a hug. And it was just a very grueling process making the band was. So check that out if you haven't. Ladies, thank you so much. Thank you for your reporting. It is so incredibly important that we are in the courtroom, and it's just an honor that we have you guys just leading the charge when it comes to this coverage. This is monumental. It is the trial of the decade, and you guys are on the front line. So I appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Of course. And yes, of course, stay tuned with the Shade Room. Y'all, roommates at home, we will be following this all throughout the next 6-7 weeks, possibly, that this will be taking place in Lower Manhattan. We'll be live tweeting. We'll be posting stories, posting on our website. So be sure to stay tuned as we continue to follow this story. And we'll have updates every Friday like this. If you like it, I love it. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night. Hello, roommates, and thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Do you want more TSR Investigates? Be sure to subscribe and check us out at theshaderoom.com.